Hey everybody! Today I am reviewing another classic, and this is Blow Up, directed by Michelangelo Antonioni. Antonioni is probably one of the most well-known Italian art house directors, particularly in the 50s, but mostly the 60s. He made a lot of very interesting films with a lot of great, thought-provoking ideas like Red Desert and L'Avventura, to name a few. But of all the films that I have seen of his, Blow Up is my favorite. This film came out in the 1960s, and it was very controversial in its day because it depicted a very shocking environment of the very modern swinging 60s. So it was just, sexual freedom and drugs and rebellion and fashion magazines becoming very prominent, so a lot of models looking very, very thin. And that's kind of what the film is about in terms of the plot. It's about a fashion photographer named Thomas, and he's a very suave, philandering kind of guy living in London, and he decides to go out to the park and take a few photos one day, and he spots a couple, so he starts taking pictures of them almost like he's a paparazzi. And then when he goes home and develops the photos, he realizes there's something strange kind of in the corner of the photo, and he can't tell if it's a shadow or something else, but the more he clears it up, the more he realizes that it's actually somebody pointing a gun at the couple. So on a very basic level, that is the idea or the story of the movie. Like when you're watching it on TV and you push info, that's probably something that you will see. But this film is so much more than that. It is studying the idea of art and just photography, how it can be manipulative and how it can be interpreted in so many ways depending on who is looking at it. All of this is seen through the filter of a very different society. It was a real culture shock, the 1960s. And I could go on all day talking about this movie. I could go shot for shot interpreting and teach some sort of master class over a week or something like that. But I guess when I really try to break it down, there are several main ideas that I like to touch upon when talking about this movie in depth. And I'll go with the first one. I think that it's the idea of deciphering art from reality. When do the lines blur between reality and art or fantasy, whatever, or when do they separate? So it's different for different people, and when you take away the context of the photo or the piece of art, whatever you're looking, once all that is stripped away, what do you have? What is real in that sense when society is not there to twist it and bend it in every direction? And then another idea is how art can be a wonderful thing, but it can also be kind of destructive in other ways. And I think that Antonioni, the director and the creator of the film, is very conscious of this idea. In so many ways, the photographer Thomas, the protagonist, you see a lot of Antonioni in the film, and I think he's admitted that on several occasions. And as a viewer, we are always conscious that this is something that is trying to manipulate us, because that's what film is. I mean, film does manipulate us into feeling something, and he wants the audience to be aware of that while they're watching it. And there are many times in the film where he's purposely using the camera to trick you, doing some sort of trick like a zoom in and out to try to make you realize that maybe your perception is off, so that you're aware of the artifice of it and you're not sure what's supposed to be real, and you're not sure whether or not you're seeing the point of view of the photographer or if you're seeing the point of view of the director. The camera angles are always making you conscious that maybe there's a third eye in a scene between two people. Another idea that I think is really important is how society is affected by these ideas and how they affect the changing world. This movie is very similar to a film that was made in the early 70s called The Conversation, which was directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and I actually did a review of that. And they're similar because they're both looking at the zeitgeist and really studying how we're impacted by certain things. In The Conversation, it's more technology, whereas in this film, it's more an examination of art, I would say. But I think both films are similar in that it's, to me at least, it seems like it's about loneliness and this lack of connection. And it's filmed in a way where you're seeing all this great photography and this high fashion and these models wearing these crazy hairdos and all this makeup. But in those liberations and in the loss of those values, we are losing that connection. And Antonioni, like Thomas, the character, is quite taken by this idea, by these very skinny models, and he knows it. Even though he's looking at the external beauty of these people and of all these things, these clothes and everything, he's always trying to kind of rip that away and find meaning behind it. He's trying to find a sense of art behind the madness, and to a greater extent, in that art, he's trying to find a point to existence. And the more I watch this film, the more I realize that Thomas the character, it's not so important that he's well developed, because as a character, we don't know anything about him basically. We just get to see him throughout a day, his normal routine and just his behaviors and things like that. And I like that. I like the idea of this person just kind of being a blank slate that we can project ourselves onto more as an idea, just like how Antonioni is projecting himself onto this photographer. When you watch him, you notice that he's constantly alone throughout the movie. He is very bored and very misogynistic towards these models when he's trying to direct them in the photography, or the photo shoots, I should say. But yet again, he's drawn to the artifice of it. But when he finally sees this murder, or what he thinks is a murder, take place, and he catches it on camera, he's always trying to find meaning behind it, and he's trying to figure out whether or not what he's seeing is real or not. Or maybe it is just a shadow, maybe he's just seeing things, or maybe he's trying to project his own ideas of what he wants to see, which is exactly what we do as people. And that reminds me a lot of things like the JFK assassination or 9/11. We have these photos of the JFK assassinations and videos we've watched hundreds and hundreds of times, thinking, oh, there's another bullet coming from another end. Or with 9/11, oh, it's a conspiracy. There's something going on in the corner of the frame. We're never satisfied. We're always trying to find meaning behind these events. We're looking for someone new to blame or something to blame, and we're trying to find a new way to occupy our thoughts. So as you can see, there are a lot of very, very tangible, great ideas in this film, which is why I think it is an absolute masterpiece. It's one of my favorite films of all time. The moment I saw it, I knew it was something special. And I admit it's not going to be for everyone. It's very open-ended, and it's one of those films where you've got to see it a lot of times, and it's going to change the way you perceive the world and what the director's trying to say the more you watch it. And it never gives you easy answers. Just remember, it's not going to have a traditional hero's journey, and you're not going to see really highly developed characters. This is more a commentary on the world and of art and how people make it and how we observe it, I should say. So yes, this is definitely something that I recommend for major cinephiles or people that just really want to see something great and different. Thank you all for listening. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, the link is below, and you can also like my Facebook page and the link below that. Catch you next time.